What is going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning into yet another episode of Yards Per Fantasy. I am your host, Kevin Brumley, and I am joined by two guests today that work at Yards Per Fantasy. Z, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, sir. And John, who has no picture right now because his camera's not working. John, how you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, I kind of like the whole no camera. It's nice. I can just do whatever I want. No one even knows.
John's actually completely nude right now.
I was about to say.
Come on now. We don't need to be saying that at the
moment. So we're talking about underrated, overrated, and properly rated receivers. So with the receiver position, there's a lot of guys that I like this year, and there's also a lot of guys that I'm kind of out on this year. So it's really interesting just because we pass so much in the NFL today. So the first running back I want to get you guys' take on, if you guys think they're overrated, underrated, or properly rated, is Juju Smith-Schuster, who is wide receiver 9. He is 26th overall, and his ADP is 34. Z, start this one off for us. What do you think about Juju?
I think he's properly rated at where he's going at. I mean, if they just continue to utilize him out of the slot and put Deontay out wide in 3 wide sets and just use Juju where he excels, don't fix what isn't broken. Let's not force the issue. If they just continue doing that, then he's going to eat. He's going to get a lot of targets. I think he'll definitely produce he probably outproduce where he's going. The expectation is low for him because of the how he burned so many owners last year. So his ADP is a little bit lower than it was last year. When Ben Roethlisberger is throwing to Juju Smith-Schuster, I know you said you don't like QBR, but Ben's QBR is really it goes up drastically, and it also would make for a great stack. You can get Juju Smith-Schuster where he's going, get Ben Roethlisberger later in the draft. That would be a beautiful stack to get. So I think he is properly rated.
Okay, John.
I guess properly rated. Maybe I might move him a few spots up, so I may be a little underrated. Like I probably have him at maybe 7, like wide receiver 7. I'm just not a big Allen Robinson fan this year, so him over him, I think I would definitely take Juju over him. So he's right in that area for me. But yeah, I think him and Big Ben. Last year we just saw what the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation was. So you just imagine Big Ben being healthy this year. This offense is just going to go back to where it was and just Ben throwing for 45 to 5,000 yards. And, I mean, Juju's got to be a beneficiary of that.
You're completely right. He's in a tough spot because, he's behind the two in front of him is Allen Robinson and Kenny Golladay, both talented guys. But I do agree Allen Robinson's not in the best case scenario against some of the other receivers. You look at the two behind him, Mike Evans and DJ Moore, two really talented guys. DJ is probably in the a little bit tougher situation than Mike Evans. Mike Evans has so many weapons around him that he should draw single coverage, even though he should demand a double coverage. I'm going to go Juju as properly rated, but I'm not going to be surprised if he's outside the top 15. I honestly, if there's one receiver I'm trying to get in Pittsburgh, I'm definitely buying every share of stock I can in Deontay Johnson. I honestly think he's going to lead Pittsburgh in every or almost every statistical category as far as wide receivers in Pittsburgh. He's going to blow up this year. I think he'll be a top 15, top 20 receiver next year when we do fantasy. And right now you're getting them in like the 30s or something like that. I'm going out and getting Deontay Johnson. I'd rather have him than Juju personally. That gets us to our next receiver. He is one of the best in the world, but his team drafted another guy very highly, and he already had a guy opposite of him who, eats up some targets. So I'm kind of curious what it will look like this year, and that man is Amari Cooper. He's wide receiver 13. He's going overall 31, and his ADP is 35. Is he overrated, underrated, or properly rated, John?
Oof, that's a tough one. I'm going to have to say – so I'm just looking at the players around him. I hadn't really thought about him much. I'm going to say underrated again. I'll take him over DJ Moore. I'll take him over, I guess, Thielen, just because of the Minnesota doesn't throw as much. I'll take him over those guys. So I'll move him up a few spots as to where he is now at wide receiver 13. Yeah, I mean, give me as much of this offense as I can get. Hopefully, Dak is just, I mean, plays like he has and can be that upper tier quarterback. Because if he can, I just see this offense with Zeke as well. This offense would just be obviously elite. So, yeah, give me all the pieces of this offense I can get.
That's a great point. Z?
I like Amari Cooper as a player. I think he's going to have a lot of success in that offense. But in that tier of wide receivers that he's going in, the difference between him and the rest of those receivers is that they are going to have they are going to have a larger target share than Amari Cooper. I think they're going to, and if we're discussing PPR rankings, then I'm taking Juju above him. I'm taking Thielen above him. I will be taking DJ Moore above him, and he will be last in that tier. So I think he's overrated. I think he's overrated as it stands. So yeah, definitely overrated.
Okay. I understand what both of you are saying. I agree with Z saying his target share is going to be less than the guys around him. Like we look at the two in front of him, DJ Moore, Adam Thielen should both probably receive more targets. We look at the two behind him, OBJ and Robert Woods. I mean, I definitely take Cooper above Robert Woods, but OBJ should probably receive more targets than Amari Cooper. We're not 100% sure on that, but I agree with what John said. That offense is like, if I'm Dak Prescott, man, I'm like, dude, if I can get paid and I can stay in Dallas with a pretty solid offensive line, stupid receivers to throw to, and Zeke Elliott behind me, sign me up. You know, I'm going to go as Amari Cooper as I think he's very slightly underrated. I think he's a little bit closer to like that just fringe top 10 than 13. I'm not saying like I'm taking him, top 7, but I would have him probably at that like 9, 10, 11 spot over 13 personally, but it's definitely a tough one. But the next one, this one's an interesting one because he's right behind Amari Cooper, and that's OBJ. Now, if you would have asked somebody when he was playing in New York, there was a lot of people that thought he was the best receiver in the world. And I was never one of those people. I always thought he was slightly overrated because he made that one really cool catch, and he would take some of them to the house and then kick a field goal net and it would fall and hit him in the face. He was always in the news. I always thought he was slightly overrated, extremely talented, but slightly overrated. But now he's down to wide receiver 14, 32 overall with an ADP of 31. And it's interesting, man. Baker had a bad year last year. Does he bounce back? A lot of question marks with that Cleveland Browns team. Z, what do you think? Is he overrated, underrated, or properly rated?
Yeah, that ADP of 31 is kind of criminal. It's OBJ. I mean, just take him in that area. Just take him and then just deal with the losses and make it up somewhere else because, wide receiver is so deep. So say if you go running back, and then OBJ is your first receiver, and then wide receiver is so deep, you can make up for whatever losses you take with OBJ, but the upside is so high with OBJ.
Sure.
And if we're looking at OBJ and the Adam Thielen archetype, that's where Stefanski was last year in the Vikings. Adam Thielen was very productive until he had his hamstring injured. So I mean, you take OBJ, put him in that role. He is more talented than Adam Thielen is. I think he will outproduce his ADP this year. He had a hernia or something? He had a groin surgery or hernia. Yeah, so there was also that to take into consideration. And then Freddie Kitchens was in charge of the offense last year, which was a disaster. Nobody was even on board with that. So I definitely think he's a steal, and he is very undervalued this year.
I like it. John?
Yeah. I agree pretty much 100% what Z said. Definitely underrated. You got to hope another year with Baker, they form a little bit better chemistry. I think I saw Odell Beckham had the worst target, like how the catchable balls towards him, it was the worst in the league from Baker last year. I don't know I probably explained that terribly.
No, I got you.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to get him. Yeah, I'm hoping Stefanski I imagine is going to be such a better coach than Kitchens. I'm not putting all the blame on him last year. Baker didn't play well, obviously, either, but I think he'll play better this year. And this is another offense that I know everyone was really high on it last year, and then that's kind of staring people off this year. But I'm still on the train. I'm trying to get this offense if I can. So I'm taking Beck. I'm hoping he's. I'm hoping he finishes around that wide receiver 9-10.
And I don't need to waste any more time because I agree. I think he is underrated. I think last year was worst case scenario. I'm not going to waste any more time and just keep talking about the same stuff that you guys already said. I think you guys nailed it. Underrated for OBJ. Next man up is A.J. Brown, wide receiver 18, 41 overall with an ADP of 42. Z, what do you think about A.J. Brown?
He's my favorite wide receiver. I need to have A.J. Brown on all my teams this year. I'm so happy we got him in our league, our draft this year for yards per. He is a beast, man. I mean, those Ole Miss receivers, him and DK, I don't know what it is about those guys, but those guys are monsters, man. I don't care about people saying, oh, he breaks off touchdown runs and takes them like 40 yards and 50 yards, but he's not just running like these like designed screens and like these jet sweeps. He's actually running routes. He's running slants up the middle of the field. He's running in the middle of the field in cover 2 offense and cover 2 defenses, breaking 2 or 3 tackles and getting additional yards. This is a talented wide receiver. And with the majority of the target share that he's going to get, there's Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis just had toe surgery. What's going to happen with him? But whatever. Who cares about Corey Davis? I don't care about Corey Davis. I don't care about any other receiver on that team. I'm not concerned with any other receiver on that team taking targets away besides for Jonnu Smith. Maybe I'm overlooking somebody. Maybe I'm way too hyped up on somebody on A.J. Brown. But what I saw from that guy was just absolutely magical last year. I mean, shortly after Ryan Tannehill came in, and if you guys remember that Raiders game that A.J. Brown played, he was just dusting the entire secondary. And I know it was the Raiders secondary, but he did it to the Texans. He can do it to almost any secondary he wants to. And his capabilities just as a human being, he can make the most out of a difficult matchup. So I think he's going behind Odell Beckham, right? He's going behind Adam Thielen. I think he's undervalued. I think he's going to be going in the top. He's going to be going in the top 2 rounds next year. I
like it. Yeah. John.
This is another one. I flip-flopped a couple times with him. For a while, I was like, I don't like A.J. Brown. Then I was like, oh, you know what? I'm trying to get him in my draft. And now I'm kind of like, if he falls to me, I'll take him. So I'm going to say properly rated. He finished number 8 wide receiver over the second half of the year, but I think he was like 45th or something like that in targets. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. Does he see an increase in targets this year? If he does, he's definitely going to be underrated. But if this offense just continue to, just obviously pound Derrick Henry and he only sees a limited targets, I have trouble seeing him succeeding past where he's being drafted. So I think it's all just going to come down to that. So I'm just going to take him as properly rated where he is.
Both are great points. I flip-flopped on A.J. Brown a little bit, like nothing dramatic where I just he was maybe slightly overrated or slightly underrated. I'm going to end up saying properly rated. I do think he's going to get more target shares just because he's going into year 2. We know he's really, really good. You know what I mean? He's kind of got the rookie stuff out of the way. But at the same time, I don't think he's going to get a ton of targets because I don't think the Titans are going to throw the ball a ton. I do agree with what Z said is he's not just a one-trick pony. He's not like he can run a go route. You just throw him a long ball. Hopefully he catches it. That's not him. He can work. You know what I mean? He can work across the middle of the field. When he came out of the draft, I was like, maybe he's just one of those physical specimens. Not much of a receiver. He's a receiver, man. He can ball. With that being said, properly rated just because, I think his talent is better than 18. I think his target share, like his opportunity to really prove himself is a little bit less than 18. So that's why I'm going to go in the middle with an 18, if that makes sense. Next guy up is we're going down a few spots. We're going down to wide receiver 27, which is Stefon Diggs. He's overall 59. His ADP is 65. Stefon Diggs. John, what do you think?
I'm going to have to say underrated. What did John Brown finish last year? Wide receiver 16 or something
I don't
like
have that in front of me, to be honest. Yeah, I think it was something around that.
It was definitely like top 20. If John Brown on the offense can finish top 20, I don't know. I'm going to say Stefon Diggs is a few tiers above John Brown. So I definitely think drafting him at number 27, he's underrated. I know the whole Josh Allen's not accurate and everything, but we've seen wide receivers succeed with him. So I don't see why Stephon Diggs couldn't. So I'm definitely how Z felt about Amari Cooper, or not Amari, AJ Brown. That's how I'm feeling about Stephon Diggs this year.
I like it.
Nice.
Z, what are you thinking?
Yeah. So who are the other receivers going around him right now?
So the three in front of him is DK Metcalf, Devontae Parker, T.Y. Hilton. The three behind him is Tyler Boyd, Jarvis Landry, and AJ Green.
Yeah, he's a little underrated. He's one of the best receivers in the league as far as being a great technician. I think that'll help him transcend whatever issues he has with Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen can get him the ball. They'll probably use him in a lot of packages that'll play him close to the line of scrimmage. Some drag, whatever. I don't know, but like I think he's just far too talented to not outproduce that ADP. I could see myself taking him above Devontae Parker and right neck and neck with DK Metcalf. So yeah, he's definitely undervalued.
So I look at 20 through 26 in front of Stephon Diggs is Tyler Lockett, DJ Chark, Terry McLaurin, Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, Devontae Parker, T.Y. Hilton. I think out of that group, I think Diggs is probably the most talented receiver. He's now the go-to guy. He's not like splitting him and Thielen, neck and neck guy. I think he's head and shoulders better than Beasley and John Brown. But I also think they are good enough to not let them completely like roll coverages over to Diggs. Josh Allen, not the greatest quarterback in the world, but I think Diggs is like, young receivers out there, go watch Stephon Diggs work, man. He runs some stupid routes. I mean, this guy is a worker. I don't love Stephon Diggs as like his actions on the field. Like I'm a receiver, man. I'm cool with being prima donna at receiver. I cry on the field like, hey, give me the ball. You know what I mean? But I think Stephon Diggs thinks he's the best receiver in the world and he's not. So like he kind of drives me crazy in that aspect. But I do think he's really talented. I think he's underrated. I think I don't really see the argument why he would finish outside the top 20 receiver. I don't really see much of an argument why he would. So for that simple case right there is I think he's underrated. And then before we get to some groups, we'll talk about our last receiver I want to talk about because once upon a time, he was the man in the league. You know what I mean? He was one of those guys as being said in the same breath as Antonio Brown and Julio Jones. And that is AJ Green, back from injury. He's been beat up, but Joe Burrow's now in town. So, we don't know how that will play out. But AJ Green is wide receiver 30, overall 67, ADP of 67. John, what do you think?
Yeah, he's going to be a tough one this year.
Yes.
Yeah, because he's going right with Tyler Boyd, too, I think. Like, they're almost right back to back. And I don't know which one will be better. I love AJ Green, and I could see myself taking him ahead of some of the guys. So I personally think underrated, but I don't mind taking that risk right around there where if this injury does hamper him and he isn't what he used to be, fine. I'm fine with that. But I see myself taking him in more drafts than just leaving him. So for myself, I say underrated, but I just don't mind with that dart throw, and I would take him over T.Y. because, is T.Y. any more healthy than AJ Green? He's always getting hurt every year. Sure. So I just see myself taking him over like T.Y., Devontae Parker, DK Metcalf. That's a little tougher. I'm not sure right there. But, yeah, so I'll say underrated, but just nothing like I don't see him finishing in the top 20, but just maybe like around the 24 to 25 range.
Okay. All right. Z.
Yeah, like what John said, like at that point in the draft, you're taking somebody who's proven themselves to be one of the most elite receivers in the game. Shoot your shot at that point in the draft. There's no reason to be scared. He had the full offseason to rehab. I don't think he had the full offseason last year to rehab. I don't think he was ever planning on coming back during the season because he saw how awful it was the worst offense in the league probably. So he's like, I'm not going out there. I'm not going to injure myself again. I'm going to rehab. I'm going to get better. And I'm going to come back when we get Joe Burrow. And I'm going to show out because I need a new contract. I need to get paid. So I'm going to play my ass off. Sorry for, can we say ass? I don't know. So he's like, I'm going to play my ass. And and again, if we're talking about fantasy football, the ADP is just criminal. Like he's going to, if he gets injured again, whatever. But, if he pays off, imagine the payoff with AJ Green. He's 30 years old. That's not that old in terms of being a receiver. And, I'm not sure how much they put him in the slot last year, but say if they start moving him around and putting him in the slot and giving him that kind of like older wide receiver treatment and getting him more efficient, high percentage catches, that would be awesome too. And too bad we don't have off season. He wouldn't be playing preseason anyways, but I'm just kind of being imaginative at this point and hoping that their head coach understands AJ Green as a player now, going into his age 31 years old, and starts moving around the field and start utilizing the different ways.
Yeah, and I think the thing is he has a super high upside as far as touchdowns. Touchdowns are something that's really hard to predict. It's kind of a luck thing, which is probably the most frustrating fantasy thing in the world. Is you'll have a running back with 110 yards and no touchdowns, and your opponent has a running back with 7 carries and 3 touchdowns and 14 yards, and you're like, oh my god, they just outscored my bell cow back.
Yeah.
Touchdowns are hard to predict. But AJ Green, with that 6'4" frame, he knows how to work in the end zone. You expect that the Bengals are going to be throwing the ball a little bit more. I think all that's going to help, and that wide receiver core is very, very talented. Around him with Boyd and John Ross and Higgins. It's definitely going to be interesting. But it is scary, with his injury history. But I do agree with what you guys said when you're talking about that. Around that 6-7 round range is why not just shoot your shot, man? Go big or go home. This shouldn't be the pick that wins you or loses you the draft, at least. But it could be the pick that wins you the draft and wins you the league. So I would say, slightly underrated. I would probably be taking him as about, in that 26 range, personally. But I think he could, he does have upside to be, go back to old school AJ Green and be a top 12 guy. You know what I mean? He has that talent, as long as he's healthy. All right. So I'm going to hit you guys up with a group of 3 receivers that are kind of ranked, very closely. And I'm going with wide receiver 19, 20, and 21. And that is Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, and DJ Chark. Who do you think's overrated, underrated, properly rated? And then I want you to rank the 3 receivers themselves of which order you would take them. Z, you want to start it off?
Sure. You said Keenan Allen, DJ Chark, and who else?
Tyler Lockett.
Tyler Lockett. Okay, I'm taking Keenan Allen first, primarily because of the safety that he represents at the position. DJ Chark second, target share based on target share alone, and Tyler Lockett third. I like him as a route runner, but in that offense, you just don't know how things are going to play out. It's hard to predict what his production is going to be in the Seahawks offense from week to week. I think Keenan Allen is properly rated because, the narrative is that it's going to be more. They're going to attempt to have the offense scale back a little bit and be more conservative. I see that defense as being much more improved, and them being in negative game scripts less, unless they're playing the Chiefs. Tyler Lockett is properly rated, and who is the second receiver again?
DJ Chark.
DJ Chark might be underrated. DJ Chark could be underrated. I mean, he was on pace to outperform. Obviously, his ADP was. I don't even think he had ADP last year. But, he could easily outperform that. I mean, he was on pace to put him in the 3rd or 2nd tier wide receivers as it stands this year.
Okay. John, what are you thinking?
So I like DJ Chark the best out of those receivers, and I agree with Z, and I think he's underrated.
Okay.
Tyler Lockett's someone I'm not looking to get in any of my drafts, so I guess him last and overrated. I don't like those boomer bust guys, and I think with DK Metcalf, he'll be the number. Like, I don't know how that'll work with the number 1 or whatever. Maybe there's 1A, 1B. I like DK Metcalf way better than I like DJ Chark at this point, or not DJ Chark. Tyler Lockett. Sorry. And Keenan Allen, he's easily the most talented receiver out of those 3. But it's just we don't know what we're going to see with Tyrod there. Phillip Rivers he was a gunslinger, so obviously Keenan Allen was just peppered with targets when he was there. So it's just hard to tell what we're going to see with him. So I guess I'd say properly rated for him, just because of we just don't know what's going to happen with that offense this year.
I agree with you. Ranking them, I would go Chark and Allen's a tough one. I think I would go Chark 1, Allen 2, Lockett 3. I think Chark is slightly underrated, just because, like I said, I think they're going to be playing from behind. I don't really see, I think there's other decent receivers there in Jacksonville, but no one to really eat into his targets. Keenan Allen, most talented. I think he's the best route runner in football. Him and Diggs, I think 1, 2. And I think his skill set actually, if they scale back the offense for Tyrod or Herbert, I think Keenan Allen's skill set still kind of fits that, because he, can work that intermediate to short range with his route running abilities. And I'm not a big Tyler Lockett fan. I don't think he's a bum by any means. I'm just not a huge fan. I would rather have DK Metcalf personally. Tyler Lockett's I don't know. I don't really have too much of a reason, but I do think Tyler Lockett's slightly overrated. But that would be my ranking for those guys. Go ahead, Z.
Actually, what I said about the Chargers defense, keeping games in closer scoring differentials, I could actually, their schedule, it shows to be especially like their first 5 games. They go and play the Bengals. That could be a shootout. You never know with Joe Burrow over there. They got the Bucks. They got Drew Brees. They have there are some potentials for some shootouts and a lot of production for Keenan Allen. So I just want to there could be some upside for Keenan Allen. I just want to point that out real quick.
I like that a lot. And then my last receiver group that I kind of want you guys to talk about is the 23rd, 24th, and 25th receiver, which is Courtland Sutton, DK Metcalf, and Devontae Parker. John, start it off.
Devontae Parker is someone I really don't want a piece of this year, so overrated for me, and I guess I would rate him 3rd out of those. Would it take – how many years has he been in the league? And we just saw it at the last 8 games.
This will be his 4th year, right? Or 5th year?
5th year, I think, right?
Might be. I'm not sure. I'd have to – I should look that up.
I got it. This is his 6th.
Okay, so yeah, last year was his 5th.
So it took 5 years to finally put it together. I just think that it was a combination of they really didn't have anyone else to throw to. We saw what Preston Williams was doing before he got injured, and he was out snapping. He was out targeted. Devontae Parker, in most categories, I think Devontae Parker just had more touchdowns than him. And so I just think it was a combination of Fitzpatrick obviously he just lets it rip. And they really didn't have any other targets that they were going to throw to. So I think that was last year. I think it was kind of a bit of a fluke. I just don't see him putting it together. Metcalf I like a lot. I bump him up a few. I just talked about I liked him more than Tyler Lockett. And Courtland Sutton's someone that I guess I would just leave him as properly rated and right in the middle of those 3, just because I just don't know what we're going to see with Drew Lock. I'm a little lower on Drew Lock than others, so it's just hard to see Courtland Sutton because we saw that he didn't – I think together that his stats were down than they were with other quarterbacks. And I think Sutton's very talented, but I'm not sure about what we'll see with Drew Lock.
Z, how you feeling?
Yeah, I actually feel like I have 2 underrated players in this group, and that's Devontae Parker and DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf did so much with – he caught like 160 receptions last year. I can't remember, but he did so much. He'll finish much higher going to by the end of the year. Devontae Parker, I think he was his first few years. That was he was a victim of the Adam Gase coaching. That we see that with wherever Adam Gase does, he just spoils. He just ruins everything. And Devontae Parker's target distribution throughout the year, I think, increased when Ryan Fitzpatrick came in. It was before that, it was Josh Rosen and like a rotation of Josh Rosen and Fitzpatrick, I think. So it was like Preston Williams was, he was getting, it wasn't anything consistent, but yeah, true Preston Williams left the lineup. But I think with Devontae Parker going to he definitely showed like he had the capability to, give Stephon Gilmore a hard time against the Patriots. He blossomed a little bit last year. He is undervalued. I think he can produce more. I know it took him a lot longer to show up as a receiver, but I don't know. Yeah, he's undervalued. I think as a receiver, he can definitely. I can't build a strong argument for him. I want to build a strong argument for Devontae Parker. I think as long as he has Ryan Fitzpatrick there, he'll be okay. Even if Tua comes in, I think he'll still be okay with Tua. I don't mind either quarterback there. So I believe in Devontae Parker's skill set, and I think he's undervalued.
All right, what about Courtland Sutton?
Courtland Sutton, I'm out on Courtland Sutton. I don't know what to make of Drew Lock, like John said. I don't know if with the offensive pieces they have with Hamler and Judy and Sutton and Noah Fant. I don't know if Drew Lock's the type of quarterback to have a complete left to right read progression, or I don't know if they're going to make it like just start off with half of the field, or just start with Courtland Sutton as your first read. I don't know what's going to happen over there with Drew Lock. I don't know what the type of quarterback he is, so I can't definitively say he is overvalued like Courtland Sutton as a receiver, but I just don't know what's going to happen in Denver as far as Jerry Jeudy's a stud. Jerry Jeudy is a great wide receiver. So yeah, Courtland Sutton a little overrated for me.
Okay. I do agree with what Z was saying with Devontae Parker is, let's just bring it back full circle is Adam Gase sucks. He's terrible. And I would encourage anybody who actually wants to defend Adam Gase to please DM me, tweet at me or something, and try to explain why Ryan Tannehill was horrible. Kenyon Drake couldn't get on the field. Devontae Parker couldn't get snaps. And now magically he leaves Miami, and now, Tannehill led the Titans to an AFC championship game. Kenyon Drake's going top 10 in running backs. Devontae Parker blew up last year. Well, there was one common denominator, and now Adam Gase isn't there. So I do think Devontae Parker's a talented guy. I do understand what John's saying. I kind of agree with him that he hasn't done enough for me to feel too safe about, drafting him any higher than 25. So I would probably go properly rated. But it could swing either way. He's one of those guys I don't have a really good grasp or feel on. DK Metcalf, I'm not going to talk about him too much because I talked about him a little bit before, is I do think he's underrated. I have him as the number one guy in this group. And Courtland Sutton, who I actually really like. I feel like I like him more than most people. Drew Lock, we don't know. He has some question marks. We haven't seen him a ton. I do think Sutton's an extremely talented receiver. And, we saw at SMU, he put up a good bit of touchdowns. He hasn't done that yet in the NFL. He does have the frame to do that. He does have the skill set to do that, which is always nice, for the touchdown kicker. I think I would go DK 1. And he's underrated. I'd go Sutton as 2, properly rated, just because of the Drew Lock thing, and then Devontae Parker as 3 and properly rated is how I would see it. But do you guys have anything else to add?
I wish you would have taken Sutton in that trade we did, because I didn't realize you were so high on him.
I do like Courtland Sutton, but I end up getting Kenny G anyway.
I can envision Jerry Jeudy finishing. Having more production than Sutton by the end of the year, just because I think Jerry Jeudy is already the better receiver than Courtland Sutton is. Courtland Sutton is already he had to go through so much development, and Jerry Jeudy is far more. I think he's far more. He's far past when Courtland Sutton came in the rookie year, and Jerry Jeudy. If they both came in their rookie years, Jerry Jeudy was so much more far past Courtland Sutton. If anything, Jerry Jeudy probably has to get used to the level of play by DBs and safeties and secondaries in the NFL, but once he gets used to that, he can easily outproduce Courtland Sutton, I believe.
Okay, I like that, and I think that's a fair point. He came in as a higher level as a rookie. I just really like Courtland's upside, and I feel like if he was in a different offense, I think he'd be honestly a borderline top 12 guy if he was in the right system. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Click like, subscribe, show Yards Per some love. Go follow my guys on social media, John on MySpace, Z on Twitter, and we appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.